Hello and welcome to Boomer Live once again. And today, of course, we are here to talk about football, whatever has happened over the last 1 week. And especially over the last 1 week, there have been some accelerating footballing action, especially when it comes to the La Liga and the Copa del Rey, which took place. And of course, when it comes to the Liverpool versus Manchester United game as well. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. So, let's get going about it. First up, as to how things can be when it comes to the Premier League, how La Liga is standing at this point, and what really took place in the last 1 week. Because there were a lot of comments last evening regarding Bengaluru FC and also Kerala Blasters as well. So we will take that up as well, and that's something which we will be taking as we go ahead in the live. But firstly, let's understand what really went about yesterday's game. I think that's the most talked about game right now. 7-0. Have you ever heard that ever before? Manchester United was a Liverpool game. And I was just looking at one of the stats, and what really struck me was the fact that Manchester United have just scored once in Anfield in the last 6 years. And Liverpool have just managed to concede only once. That means that is a crazy, crazy defensive stat which Liverpool holds against Manchester United at the Anfield. And in the last 3 seasons, Manchester United have lost to Liverpool at a scoreline of 4-0 more than thrice. And that is a scary record as well now as it stands. But 7-0, who saw it ever coming? Because if you look at Liverpool's season so far, it's been a topsy-turvy season for a lot of reasons. Now, when we talk about some of the best teams or best clubs over a period of time, it's about consistency, what they maintain. Now, of course, for Manchester United, you can talk about the players being slightly jaded, the players having to play a lot of important games, played 18 games unbeaten, played some crucial cup finals, and not just that. To add to that, just remember they went up against in a two-leg tie in a high octane clash with Barcelona, where first leg was a stalemate, then came to Old Trafford, had to give it their all to get that 2-1 win over them. Then come the Carabao Cup. Finally, was a very, very tight game as well. Maybe a scoreline might not suggest, but it again was a very good game of football. So when we look all this in perspective, you can say, or you can understand to a certain extent that what Manchester United was able to do over the last period of time, over a consistent period of time, is exemplary. But could they do it for a longer period of time with the same intensity? It is doubtful, primarily because of the fact that one thing which we need to consider is that Manchester United are a team who are still developing to an extent, you can say so, because when we talk about it, when we talk about a team which has not a lot of squad depth, these things do happen. These things do happen every now and then. But can you question Eric Ten Hag for that? Uh, I mean, it is still early days, I would say so, because you have to say losing 7-0, you cannot take any excuses for that, because even though you might be tired, losing 7-0 at the end of the day is a massive result. It is nothing short of a, a big blow in any football match anywhere in the world. So even if you are a very good team, even you might be jaded, you might be tired, but you will have, even if you lose, you don't lose in that way. It just looked like they ran out of steam at the end of the day, and Liverpool really capitalized. It was possibly the best Liverpool performance I've seen all season. We were extremely critical of Liverpool as well on those lives, because I still think, or I still believe, that Liverpool haven't really got that score to really sustain over a period of time. Some of the players really found their form last evening, especially Bobby Firmino scoring. It was a wonderful sight, of course. So that should have been one of the best moments of the entire game when Bobby Firmino scored that. But other than that, I personally felt Henderson coming back. Henderson had a fantastic game yesterday, and to talk about with Harvey Elliott. Harvey Elliott made sure Casemiro was kept quiet, because Harvey Elliott is a youngster who's coming up the ranks, and he was put up against the best centre defensive midfielder in the world. And the way in which he won duels against Casemiro was nowhere there in the game. It was possibly one of the off games which Casemiro has had in a long, long time. And you have to give credit to Harvey Elliott there. Harvey Elliott was fantastic once again. The way in which he really stepped up, he really understood there was a potent threat coming, especially when it comes to Casemiro. The way in which he stopped winning the duels, doing all the dirty work there in the middle of the park. And that's what you need, right? Especially when a Liverpool team which does not have Thiago in that midfield, you really need players who adapt to different versatility. And Fabinho there once again. Fabinho was outstanding as well. Fabinho really found the lost form which he was not having the last few games or last this entire season rather. But that's where Liverpool will be very very happy with. Now for Liverpool fans, I think ETH got it wrong is a question which we have here. Um, I personally think we'll talk about tactics as we go along. But before that, I think we have to talk about Liverpool first up because this is all about 7-0, and we can talk about Manchester United and what they did wrong all throughout the day, but it would be unfair on Liverpool because see, it is not a Bournemouth they defeated 7-0, or it is not Southampton. They defeated the best team in Europe at this point of time, the most informed team in Europe at this point of time. So that in itself speaks volumes of how good that win was, and not just a mere win. Winning 7-0 is a massive, massive win. That's where even I think maybe few months down the line when Liverpool looks back at this performance when they need motivation, or just leave that. Now when they go to Bernabeu next week, they will look back at this performance and be like, yes, we've done it once. We've defeated possibly one of the best teams in Europe in form at this point. I think we can do it once again, and that's going to be the major difference at the end of the day, isn't it? Because for Liverpool, what they need is figures who can go out there and inspire them to do a job or two, and and this victory is going to really give them that inspirational factor, especially when you talk about when you talk about factors which really really contributes into a massive massive win at the end of the day. And I personally think ETH did get it wrong in a lot of ways, but at the same time, this is a kind of game which you saw happening. You did not really, you obviously expect the Manchester United to have a slump somewhere down the line because with the kind of squad depth they have, it is not the most prolific squad depth. They did not have a squad which could possibly replace everybody in the starting 11, or maybe have like replacement for someone like Casemiro. No, they do not. They do not have a like replacement for even a Bruno Fernandes. So these factors should be considered at the end of the day. And they do have some good wingers. They really have some good wingers. They really do not have a striker, and once again, do not have defenders as well. So they are a squad which are fragile. Their starting eleven is one of the best out there. They've really gelled well over a period of time this season, and it's clearly seen in the kind of unbeaten run which they had as well. Possibly the best team after the World Cup until yesterday. But can we blame Eric Ten Hag completely solely for this? That's something which we will talk about, especially when we talk about the tactics of this game. Because, I personally thought Liverpool did few things which was very right, which was to get the crowd involved. When we talk about getting the crowd involved, it's such an important factor, especially when we talk about Anfield and playing in Anfield is one of the most toughest thing to do in the world. You have to say that we have seen over a period of time how playing in Anfield can be extremely tough, and you have to say that what happened yesterday was a clear factor where Eric Ten Hag also underestimated Anfield to the longest period of time. And maybe you feel like you have to say that Eric Ten Hag is a manager who's still on the learning of the job. He's done a great job. At the end of the day, you have to say he's done it all. He's given it all, especially when it comes to turning this team around. Um, you know, especially when it comes to having that belief which has been instilled among fans as well. But is he the most perfect manager? Is he already there up there? I know he's won a trophy for them. That's a big up as well. We were here appreciating everything had time and time again. But is he there? Is he a finished product with United team? I really don't think so because there are issues with this team because when they aim for a quadruple, not quadruple, four trophies at least, because quadruple only comes when you have the Champions League under your belt. But winning Carabao Cup is a big bonus. Staying alive in the Premier League is a big bonus. Fighting hard in the European League now, being one of the favorites to win the Europa League is a big bonus. But can you really win all trophies when you're going to be competitive in all four of them? It's going to be very hard because ultimately it's going to come down to rotating your squad, your second string players coming in and stepping up. So Eric Ten Hag really saw, say for example, Lisandro Martinez. You really felt like he was uh, out of his head in terms of not being present on the field at all. He looked very jaded because the number of hours he has put up there, he's put up a shift for Manchester United, especially he's the best ball playing defender out there. The kind of faith it has been entrusted upon Lisandro Martinez is immense when you talk about this Manchester United team. Uh, See, that is where you personally feel Eric Ten Hag maybe could have been a little more smarter. I thought he got few tactics wrong as well. Uh, you know, you have to understand, especially playing Bruno Fernandes on the left hand side. in yesterday's game maybe was not the most ideal thing. When you have someone like Marcus Rashford who's been exemplary on the wings, you have to go to Marcus Rashford day and night. People have been hyping up about Marcus Rashford's impact on as a number nine for Manchester United. Fair enough. He's got some really good stats there as well. But his best performance is when he cuts in from the left hand side, when he really bombards the opposite right back with his space. And that's something, as Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, he would have been much, much more nervy defending someone like a Marcus Rashford than him defending Bruno Fernandes, because Bruno Fernandes lacked pace and he was pressing on occasions where he really did not have to press. What that meant was that broke the structure with which Manchester United was setting up against Liverpool in the Anfield. And that really, really disorganized, that really left Dalo open in multiple occasions as well. Salah really made the most out of it. The kind of runs which Salah made, bombarded and tried to cut in, which meant Dalo was also left open. There was no defensive cover or track back from Bruno Fernandes because that flank was a creaky threat. But when we talk about the left hand side as well, you have to say Robo had Anthony pocketed throughout the 90 minutes. He made sure Anthony did not have a very big game as well. So that is where you feel somewhere down the line that this could have been slightly different. This could have been very much different. I think we have Jaren back. Jaren, great to have you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm audible perfectly.
Yeah, it's like audible, good, decent. I mean, there's some bit of cracking there, but I think it's decent.
Yeah, I mean, slight issues on my end, but I think you're talking about the Manchester dub where they lost 7-0, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I was talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Noah says is very accurate there. I specifically felt that, when it comes to Rashford's positioning as well, that's where you really felt that he was positioned in a place where he was positioned much more centrally, and it was much more easier for Virgil van Dijk and Konate to deal with him rather than maybe test him out against the likes of Alexander Arnold, who's struggled for quite some time when it comes to a player who's in form. Maybe you would have expected that playing on the left wing, Marcus Rashford would have done a lot better because there was a lot more signs that Alexander Arnold is struggling when comparison to the likes of Konate or Virgil van Dijk.
Absolutely. I mean, that's something which we were talking about as well, especially when it comes to the usage of Marcus Rashford, such a key element in that particular lineup of Manchester United. Because what we have seen of Manchester United over this entire season has been Marcus Rashford, being extremely potent as a bombarding left winger, and the way in which he cuts in a modern day left winger who's at his prime. It was exactly what you wanted to see of Marcus Rashford. But yesterday, using him through the central region, I mean, I understand what he wanted to do. He wanted to be more fluid when it comes to switching his formations, trying to test someone like a Virgil van Dijk with pace and also Konate. But it would have been more ideal when you could have played someone like a Wout Weghorst through the central region, or maybe play Bruno Fernandes as a false nine. That would have even worked in a better way because Bruno Fernandes leaving that flank open meant Liverpool was so much more comfortable, and Diego Dallo, is defensively much more comfortable than Aaron Van Bissaka. But then you have to understand he's going to come up against someone like a Mohamed Salah. And you needed someone to give him the defensive support on that region as well. That's why I was talking about on the left-hand region as well, where you felt Robo had Anthony pocketed throughout the 90 minutes, which made sure that Manchester United had to go to their plan B, plan C, which did not really even work. They understood in the halfway, maybe by the time it was 50 minutes, the game was done and dusted because Liverpool had that dominating hand. It was a prime Liverpool which turned up at Anfield, like what you saw in the last seasons.
I mean, what do you reckon about Darwin Nunez? You felt that Diego Dallo was the right option in that scenario because it just seemed like he had no answers when it came to Darwin Nunez and his and the run that he made where he tried to cut into towards the Manchester United goal.
I mean, yeah, especially on the right hand side, I was talking about. Sorry, I missed what the play was. Luke Shaw, I want to talk about on the right of Liverpool and on the left of United. Luke Shaw was the one. I'm sorry about that. Diego Dallo, yeah, coming back to Diego Dallo on the right hand side alongside Anthony there. It was a very similar thing what we saw as well because with Darwin Nunes, he presses, man. He presses like a crazy machine there, and that's something which that was one of the traits which attracted Darwin Nunes to be a part of the Liverpool squad as well. One of the primary reasons Liverpool went after Darwin Nunes at the start of the season was he was someone who fit into that entire puzzle which Liverpool was building upon. And you all obviously made fun of him. You all obviously made a lot of memes about Darwin Nunes, about how he was missing up front in the goal. But then we definitely did not appreciate the other things he was doing on the field, especially when it comes to him doing the off the ball work, when it comes to him being more creative. These elements were missed upon. I know him not scoring, him missing the scoring, which was an integral part of it. There is no excuse for him missing some of the most important and some of the most easiest of sitters up front in front of the goal. But then the kind of impact he's had on the left hand region every time he was put on the field, especially when it comes to him playing through the center or even him playing on the left hand region. He has been outstanding. I think he's found a position playing on the left, and I think that's fantastic for Liverpool. Now Luis Diaz is going to be back. I don't know when he's going to be back, but whenever he's going to be back, it's going to be tough competition for Luis Diaz as well. I think that's going to be very interesting to see who plays where, because Gakpo, yesterday you saw the best of Gakpo so far in the season, a player who stepped up when the team demanded as well. Now talking about which Diego Dallo, maybe it could have been maybe it was the right option. I don't really see anything wrong with that option because he's more defensively more compact. But at times I personally feel Diego Lalo tends to crumble under pressure. I've seen him in some of the bigger games as well. When you're putting a good left winger against Diego Lalo, he tends to crumble under pressure, and that's something which United will have to sort out very quickly because now, if they have to compete in all the competitions and if they have to stay relevant, I'm pretty sure Premier League is now a little more distant. But other two competitions, of course, the FA Cup and also the Europa League, you will have to really be fluid. You really have to be proactive and technical, especially coming up against some of the most technical wingers out there in Europe.
I mean, let's talk about the most pertinent question that a lot of Liverpool fans will be asking right now. Do you reckon this is a comeback of Liverpool, or this is a moment, because we spoke about how, I mean, or rather, if you look at the starting of the season, the defeat to Man United is where Liverpool's season really got derailed. Now, do you reckon this is a second coming of Liverpool?
I mean, CJ, I think there are two ways to look into this, right? This could also be a one-off. This could also be coming of age as well, because you already saw a very similar performance of Liverpool against Bournemouth at the start of the season, where you felt like after that horror start which they had, okay, this was possibly the return of Liverpool when they defeated Bournemouth 9-0 there. But there and then again, they had this longer string of bad games which really put them off. But now I really feel defeating a team like Manchester United, who are on top of their power at this point of time, I think that's going to give them a lot of confidence for them going into Bernabeu. I know defeating Real Madrid in Bernabeu is a very, very, very tough task to do. Not every team is FC Barcelona. Let me just remind you there. But it's a serious task, man. I don't think any team other than Barcelona has been able to do that, and that's why you give credit to Barcelona for that. But at the same time, other teams across Europe, I've seen City who were on top of the game. I've seen PSG. I've seen a lot of teams. Maybe Chelsea really gave them a good fight by defeating them 3-2. But there, once again, Real Madrid really finds these moments of play which makes them come back into the game. Somehow or the other, moments of magic where they'll be absolutely, shunned throughout this game, and all of a sudden, this couple of moments which really makes them come back into the game, bombarding. And that's where I personally feel, looking at the entire prospect of how the game has been put forth at this point, I think have to be very honest. This is going to give them a lot of confidence going into that Bernabeu. Like, I know somewhere or the other, I feel it's going to be a much better game than what they displayed at Anfield. It just looks like Konate and Van Dijk is slowly stringing a partnership. I know about Trent. Trent is still an issue because Vinicius has always troubled Trent whenever they have come up against each other. So that's going to be the major threat. The moment you keep Vinicius silent, Real Madrid is silent. That's something which we have seen of Real Madrid in the recent past, and that's one of the reasons why Barcelona have been able to be successful, because Araujo versus Vinicius has been one of the key battles to watch in Europe in the recent past.
I mean, Michael Andrew says that Liverpool can defeat Real Madrid. I think we've pretty much covered that. But let's talk about the title race, then, Nibble. Moving on from Manchester United's dub. Um, if you saw how Arsenal almost had another shocker, where they were trailing against Bournemouth, and they again had to have mount a rescue operation. Do you reckon the Arsenal armada, so to speak, is starting to get a little shaky towards the end of the season?
No, I don't really think so, Jen, because As long as you're pulling those 3 points, that really speaks hallmark of a champion team. Because these are the games, if they go on to win the title, they're gonna look back and be like, okay, we were put under pressure and we were able to come back out of it like champion team. And this is a hallmark of a team, of a Premier League champion kind of a team. I've seen Manchester City pull off these kind of results when they are on peak of their powers, when they go on these runs. Because these small games, which you won't don't really consider to be massive, does play a part when it comes to at the end of the season. You might get all your points against some of the topmost oppositions in the Premier League. But these small teams, these games which are deadlocked in the 90 minutes, can you get a winner here or there? But if you do end up getting one, that really changes the context massively, Jared. And that's where I personally feel, for them to go out there and get that that 3 points at the end of the day is going to give them a lot of confidence. And now is going to be the biggest test for Arsenal because they have got the pressure of now maintaining the lead. When you're chasing the lead, it's a different pressure. But when you're also maintaining the lead, understanding there's a team chasing you is a different kind of pressure. Because the moment you go 1-0 down, or moment when you're not scoring, there's a sense of pressure among the fans in the Emirates. There's a sense of pressure in the dressing room as well. Now that is going to be a big test because last 12 to 12, 13 games left in Arsenal's hand. One game against their possible chasers in Manchester City, and a couple of them, of course, they're going to be coming up against. I think they're going to be coming up against one against Liverpool, if I'm not wrong. I think they have a game against Liverpool as well. So this is going to be the biggest test for them. So if they can tick those boxes and not give away points to smaller teams, I think then they're on the well. They're very truly on course to win the title. But otherwise, if they lose a couple of points here or there, not get those 3 points and some of the most easy 3 points which needs to be taken, then you start to feel like, oh my god, what if we fumble? Because if it goes to the last day with 2 points to play, I think the pressure is going to be immensely on Arsenal more than any other team.
I mean, talk me through this particular incident, right? The first goal came in the very first minute where what do you say, a kickoff routine that was shown up by Bournemouth really took Arsenal by surprise. We used to see Arsenal be, I think Arsenal is the team that has scored the most in the first 15 minutes of the play, and it took them 60 minutes before they got their first goal. But do you reckon it was a bit of a surprise, a shock that Mikel Arteta had to go through because they don't really like conceding in the first 15 minutes as well. So not only did they concede in the first minute, they couldn't even score in the first minute, and that's where they had to resort back to Plan B, and Bournemouth really tested them in that sense.
I mean, I have to be honest as to Bournemouth, Southampton, uh, I mean Wolves for an extent, Everton. These teams do surprise you with their tactics all the time. That's why Premier League is such a interesting league to watch because they keep putting in these kind of efforts. I'm not telling you the most technically gifted teams out there in the midfield. If you put them against any Spanish teams will really dominate them, and that's one of the reasons why in Europa League, especially, you've seen the lower tier Spanish teams or mid-table Spanish teams really dominate over English teams time and time again. Now, talking about which, the quality of games, the competition which really stands up, I have to say Bournemouth, they are up there fighting for relegation, but then these kind of wins, man, these kind of performance, what they put is what you want to watch. And especially Arsenal's winning with Aston Villa as well a couple of weeks ago was right
Yeah.
up there. Novi game for Jorginho to come in the last moment and score, man. That really speaks volumes of champion teams. I've seen it time and time again, Jalen, because these two wins at the end of the day is going to make a big difference. If they would have lost points there, City would have been 1 point away from Arsenal.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Also, talk me through the role of Thomas Partey. He has been the linchpin for Arsenal. They did get Jorginho as a backup for him, but he's really been someone who's really, who's really held that Arsenal midfield through his ball playing ability and also to be a short stopper, someone who doesn't allow other teams to really breathe that easy in the midfield.
I mean, when we talk about Thomas Partey, we what really comes into our mind is, of course, a player who's physically very dominant just because of the stature he possesses on the field. But there's a lot more to that than physicality about Thomas Partey, right? His ball playing ability in the last couple of seasons have drastically improved, and that's something which you need from your CDM as well. The distribution skills, what he's possessed in the center, the center of the park, and at times for him to also advance, be smart, advance up the field, create those chances, linking up with Jaka or linking up with Odegaard. These kind of things is what you really expect from a number six especially in the modern day football. You don't really see a Makelele kind of a number six anymore, because a player who really only stands on the central line, does not go further, just maintains the structure, drops in between the defenders when need be. There are players like that if the situation demands to be, but more often than not, as the game's flow goes by, you need number sixes who really maintain the structure at the same time, who can be slightly more fluid as well. Move up the field if need be. The pressure, take on the opposition number eight, take on the opposition number six. Move up the field once again and put that shift. Number six have become a role which is more box to box in the recent past than what they are usually known for that trait. Now, for a lot of people who are listening, what number six is what the terminology which is used for a center defensive midfielder at the right in the middle of the park, and that's you can see he's the engine room of every team. And similarly for this Arsenal team as well, Thomas Partey's form, as long as injury free, is a vital part. He's going to be a vital part of this Arsenal team, because the moment he's going to get injured, I really wonder if there is a player. I know Jorginho is there. Jorginho is a fantastic signing, but I really don't think Jorginho is in that kind of form as what Thomas Partey is at this point. And Jorginho does not really have that pace, that kind of ability at this point, that silkiness at this point, which Thomas Partey is having out of nowhere, which he really did not have. And he's also doing the dirty work pretty well. That's something which you need to have as well. When you especially have a system like Arsenal, you need a player like Busquets. I'm not saying Partey is nowhere close to Busquets in terms of player profile, but you need a player who can really calm things on and set the tempo of the game. I think Odegaard alongside Partey has been able to do that pretty well.
Fair enough. What do you think about Manchester United win over Manchester City's win over Newcastle? Newcastle did run them very close, you would say, if not for Bernardo Silva's second goal and closing the game off. But Phil Foden again has been in incredible form. However, my question really has to be about Newcastle United. They aren't actually converting a lot of these chances that they're creating. We also had a situation where very early on, I think it was Joe Linton or Callum Wilson. I think it was Callum Wilson who couldn't convert a volley into the goal net, and that could have really changed the game. It could have been 1-1 in that situation. But do you reckon Newcastle and Eddie Howe are struggling a little bit post the World Cup?
I mean, not post the World Cup. I think over the last 1 month, especially, I think from January end to now, the March first week, I think this blip was something which we all expected from a team like Newcastle, because in Premier League, teams who really shine up front at the start of the season, they often tend to have this blip towards the latter hand of the Premier League, because Premier League and English football is one of the most demanding leagues for you to be consistent over a period of time. And the teams who have been consistent have gone on to win the league as well. Otherwise, to stay relevant and to stay competitive throughout the latter end is very, very difficult, especially if you do not have squad depth. Now, when you talk about Newcastle, when you talk about Brighton, when you talk about Brentford, there's a common element in all of these teams, that is not very good squad depth. And now that is something which has been shown in their gameplay as well. As every game goes by, they've been really struggling to really put up as well. So that has been the difference. I think that has been the major difference, especially when it comes to these teams and other teams.
All right. Just as Azul has just put in the comment section, let's talk about how Barcelona has gone ahead and taken that 1-0 lead in Bernabeu ahead of their Copa del Rey second leg, which is going to happen in Camp Nou. Let's start with the main question, isn't it? We saw a performance from Barcelona where very defensive minded. It's not something that people have expected or really come to know about Barcelona, but it did really work, didn't it? Or was it really because of the away leg as well?
I mean, firstly, you do not have a Pedri, you do not have a Lewandowski, you do not have Dembele as well. So you were going into that game a with a curtailed creativity in your final third. So you had to do something different to actually overpower Real Madrid. But then I thought Barcelona were extremely poor when it comes to their midfield dominance. They had no say at all. It was Real Madrid all over them in the midfield. There is no doubts about that. Camavinga really had a great game. I have to say, he really dominated there. Even Modric had a fairly decent game as well. But if I have to talk about from the positive side of Barcelona, I think, or from what I personally felt, was Kessier was outstanding defensively and also going up the field on certain occasions. I have to say, even someone like a Frankie De Jong, the way or the kind of game he had against Real Madrid there defensively was a clear case what he has put up, saying that if you're going to play me as a number six, I can do it. If you want to make me do that defensive work, I can do it. If you want to make me play as an advanced midfielder, I can do it. The versatility which he brought into the field against Real Madrid in Bernabeu was just outstanding, man. But as Barcelona fans, there's always a thing. It's not about the wins; it's about the way in which you play. It doesn't matter you get win of 3-0, 4-0. If you don't end up playing the Barcelona way, fans will never be happy. And that is the bottom line of being a Barcelona fan, or that's the bottom line of Barcelona, the club. The fans care about the way you win, not about the win. So when you talk about any other club in the world, it's okay, 3 points in the kitty, great job. Eric Ten Hag's Manchester United at this point, great job. 3 points, doesn't matter how they play. Now, when we talk about having 34% ball possession, it's like it is like winning a game by cheating. Literally, that's what Barcelona fans perceive that win as. But ultimately, it's a win and it's a W, and it's something which you should be able to take it as well. Now, when we talk about Barcelona, some of the biggest criticism they had over the last 6 years was that they were unable to be, fluid. They were unable to be adaptive in certain situations. But this particular trait of being defensive, not just in Real Madrid game, Jared, the game against Valencia, where I personally thought they could have been, it could have been a 1 point a game, because they were 10 men down. Araujo was sent off. Then all what they had was to play in with the kind of resources they had. Christensen looked absolutely injured. Kunde was there, but they really was not looking like a team at all. And even there was no De Jong as well in the midfield. There was no Gavi. There was no Pedri. Of course, no Lewandowski and Dembele as well. For a team like that to put up another defensive masterclass back to back, and to make sure Valencia did not get that equalizing goal, that really is a positive in a certain way, because you only lose games when you concede. If you don't concede and if you're defensively compact, as once Mourinho said, you can play, you can have possession, you can have whatever you want in your life, but ultimately I'll take the trophy. So that is a mindset with which a lot of managers have won. It's not like you only win by playing positional based football. Which if that was the case, then KK Setien should have been Barcelona's best manager. There were a lot of doubts when Valverde used to do it in some of the big games, and people used to be extremely critical of Valverde, and people did not really like Valverde, though he delivered in some of the biggest occasions. He won them, what, 2 to 3 La Ligas back to back? That's a crazy stat to have, man. Despite that, for a manager to get criticized, now Barcelona are raving for a La Liga. At that time, Valverde used to really do it in a very very simple manner. You felt like, okay, Champions League, it is what it is all about. But then the fact is that you did bottle in some of the biggest Champions League nights. But once again, talking about which, you need to be having an identity, but at the same time, you need to be adaptive as well. That's what modern day football is all about. You need to kill out games when you understand that you do not have the power. See, Barcelona is also a team who's in development. If you have told me at the start of the season Barcelona will be winning the league, I would have taken it any day. Now Barcelona 9 points clear. Real Madrid drew versus Betis last evening. So that really means Barcelona are well on course to win the league. Well on course. From this point, now with players also will be returning, right? Over the next few weeks, players will be returning back from injuries. This team should possibly win the league with at least 5 points clear. At least 5 points clear at the end of the season. So that's why I think Barcelona have done a fantastic job adapting to matches. Now look at the number of 1-0 wins they've had. That is what we talk about defensive compactness. Balde, Christensen, Araujo, Kunde, these 4 guys alongside Ter Stegen in the back has been phenomenal for any European team, because their defensive trait, something which is so unlike Barcelona, has been so good, and something which needs to be appreciated more often is what I feel.
What do you think about the clutch performance of Eder Militao? I mean, it was a little unfortunate, but that own goal, do you reckon it will cost them when they go to Camp Nou?
I mean, you can't blame Eder Militao there,
You
right?
can't, yeah.
You couldn't have done anything there. You personally couldn't have done anything there. But I felt uh, it should have been 2-0 ideally, because Kessie had a very good chance, and Fatih just came to be Barcelona's villain there by standing in front of the goal. Or else it could have easily been 2-0. I hope it does not come to hurt Barcelona, because I have seen Barcelona being hurt by the small chances, especially in Champions League. You don't convert some of the important chances in the second leg, it comes to bite you back. But now going to Camp Nou, the biggest advantage for Barcelona is they'll be playing at home, and they'll be playing with players who will be returning from injury as well. I think that's going to give them a lot of confidence. And if Real Madrid proceed into the next round of Champions League, their focus is again going to be on the Champions League more than any other league. Because Real Madrid really take pride in winning the Champions League time and time again. Doesn't matter how bored they get by winning Champions League 100 times, they still go for the 101st time with the same kind of intensity. So that's Real Madrid for you. So uh, Barcelona will hope they get their result against against Liverpool, which means the focus will shift from the Copa del Rey to the Champions League, because I think the quarterfinal will be played at the last week of March, right? I think it'll be played in the first week of April and last week of March, somewhere there. So they will be pretty. They'll be high and dry for that, because it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a midweek fixture, I believe, and they're going to be right. It's going to be after two heavy weeks of football as well. So it's not going to be easy, because they'll be playing Barcelona once again on the 18th. Then they'll be going for the quarterfinal. Then again they'll be playing one more league. Then again Barcelona and the semi-final. It's going to be really tough for Real Madrid there. For Barcelona, all what they have to focus is on La Liga and get this Copa del Rey done. I think it's going to be a great domestic success if they go on to win 3 domestic trophies this season.
I mean, absolutely. As you've already mentioned about how even in the league, it does look like Real Madrid, or rather Barcelona, are running away with it. Let's talk about. I mean, pretty much we've covered almost everything out of the footballing world, isn't it?
I think we did put in our title regarding the CHHETRI goal. You can see the jersey. I'm not going to be biased here just because I'm wearing the jersey.
Absolutely, says the guy who's wearing Bengaluru FC's jersey. But yeah, go ahead, Abel.
I mean, I just want to put my point, because I was there on the ground as well there. See, yesterday we saw a lot of debate in the comments asking for this particular question as to whether it was a legal goal or not. I think it's about time we clarify to the people, saying that it was a legal goal. There is nothing wrong in that, because the only confusion there, the only dichotomy there is whether referee Crystal John said to Chetri, "You can take the free kick." So that is something which is not there anywhere. There's no proof of it. Chetri says that he did ask Crystal Jones, and Crystal Jones said it's up to you to take it or not. And Chetri also says Luna heard it. Now the question is, which language did Crystal Jones and Chetri communicate in? Was it a language which Luna understood? Or secondly, did he really ask that question, and which Crystal John gave a thumbs up for it as well? If that is the case, then Kerala Blasters' argument falls off from that very stance in itself. Because Law 13.3, which I again reiterate, says the advantage when you get a free kick, regardless of where you get it, regardless of if the ball is 10 yards or not, the advantage is always going to be with the team who wins the free kick. It's up to them to take it quick, or whether to tell the referee to set up the wall, then take it as per their wish. But if they want to take it long, before they want a wall which needs to be 10 yards away, then they won't want to clear it off again. So the advantage was with Bengaluru, the advantage was with Sunil Chetri, and they decided to take it as well. Now that's me just talking just based on law, just based on what I saw, not on what I think. What I think is totally different. What I think, I can't tell it out in the camera, because that really hurt a lot of emotions. so uh, so that is what I personally feel, just based on law. Now talking about which again, what isn't heroism what Kerala Blasters did? See, a lot of section believe it is, or else not a team who does that will get a standing ovation when they come in the airport, man. Luna Vukanovich really got the standing ovation when he came to Kochi airport, and that's something which speaks about how Kerala Blasters fans, he had them, with that decision which he took. So that's a big W for them. But now what has happened is they violated code 59, 53 or 59 of AIFF, which means they could possibly be disqualified from the next year's ISL, or may have to face a heavy fine. So that is something which Kerala Blaster will have to face, and they've appealed saying that they need a rematch. I think that has fallen off completely, because it is just nonsense. Because how
I
would you
think
want
it still worked if you had played the whole match, if I'm not wrong, isn't it? The match wasn't
exactly
completed.
exactly? There were still 24 minutes left in that game, and
Yeah.
for you to walk off like that, it does not really say anything. I mean, come on, man. That really sets a wrong precedent, is what I think. It is not the right way. Really it speaks about mentality as well. Because if you really wanted to show, you could have shown it on the field. You still had 24 minutes. 24 minutes is a long time in football, Jared. We've seen it in the World Cups. We've seen it time and time
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah, yeah.
You can not score one, you can score two or three in 24 minutes. So
I
I
mean, you
believe
can ask any FC Goa fan and they'll tell you about that 5 minutes of Steven Mendoza and what that can do in a final or in a knockout.
exactly. And not just that, Jaren, especially when you're 1-0 up in a in any knockout game, the pressure is on the team who has the lead more than the team who's going to
Yeah.
score. I know there is a certain amount of pressure on the team who's going to score, but if you have to say, if I were to defend, the pressure is going to be on me. The stadium is going to be nervy. I felt it. I personally felt. I was in the crowd. I felt the nerve when that ball went. I was like, "Oh my god! Now you have to play 24 minutes to defend it." But match not happened is another question altogether, another thing altogether. But what I think is the pressure is on me. I remember as an Argentinian fan watching that World Cup final. I
Yeah,
was so scared even when it was 2-0 up. I was like, please let it be 4-0. Let it be 4-0. Because you know 2-0 is not a defendable lead. And what happened? 2 minutes is all it took to make it 2-2. 2 minutes,
yeah.
Jaren. 80 and 81st minute. That is a game done. It was level pegging going into that extra time. That's exactly what I'm trying to say, right? Anything could have happened in that game. But you let it slip away from your hands. There is no excuse for that. There's no counter to that. Refereeing decisions, the dichotomy which you have. Firstly, it is still in Bengaluru's favor. But then if you really want to make an argument on certain things which might have happened on the field communication wise, that can be debated upon for throughout the season. But that is not a factor to walk off the field. That is not a license to walk off the field. Then tomorrow onwards, every team who feels the decision has not gone in their favor will start walking off. Now, what is that going to do to
Yeah.
Indian football? That's not a good thing at all, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think it doesn't bode well for ISL as a league, trying to show itself across the world. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much. So have we covered everything then? I think
I think we
that's
have.
all, right? Yeah, we have covered everything in the footballing world this week, and we'll be back again soon because this week also is the Champions League second leg and the Europa League as well, if I'm not wrong. So quite a lot of action coming high and fast from the footballing world, and also, of course, we will be back along with Sandivani on the cricket side of things as well. But we will take a leave for now. But
We
before
got
we leave,
pummeled. RCB got pummeled today, man. I was watching that game and I was like, God, goodness gracious.
uh,
Crazy,
I
man.
mean,
Crazy.
it's just the love affair between what do you say, the Caribbean players and Mumbai Indians. Haley Matthews has just been incredible,
I
but we
couldn't
will speak
believe
about
the
it
runs
definitely.
scored in the first set, right? And then
Yeah.
I mean, can you believe it? And maybe RCB could have bought her. Now looking back and thinking,
Yeah, actually can't get enough of their stars at this point. I think maybe that's also an issue,
I
right?
think it's the bowling once again, the historical problem with RCB forever.
I thought it was more of a top order that really collapsed, and you can't really defend 170, I mean 156 on a pitch which probably would have been 200 because the ball was traveling at miles per hour. I mean, it was just very quick off the surface, but that's probably for another episode for us to talk about this is just football. And we are going to be taking a leave for now, but we'll be back soon, and we will have the conversation on WPL, and of course, India is also going to begin playing their final test against Australia. The WTC hopes hanging yet. Having said that, thank you so much for coming on the show and staying with us and talking about football because we enjoy doing this, as you all know. But also to make sure that you download Boom 11 on Google Play Store and Apple App Store. It's a risk-free fantasy experience. Even if you have no money in your pockets, it really doesn't matter because actually Boom 11 might put some money back in your pockets if you get one of those rewards. But thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be back soon.
Bye bye.